Hello friends, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink with a couple of cards that are the result of some experimenting. I say this a lot. Use the paper, use the things, play around with your inks and your sprays and all the stuff. So took my own advice and I pulled out a bunch of distress spray stains. I've used my oxide sprays a lot. I've played a bit with the Halloween mica spray stains, you know, that sort of thing. And I've used my spray, the regular spray stains, here and there, but not as often. I don't know, I gravitate towards the oxides. So I pulled out some distress HEAVYSTOCK and a bunch of different colors of the spray stains. And I just started experimenting, like mixing colors and playing around. I had a rough idea of what I wanted. Like what I was going to do, the finished cards sort of a thing. But the actual backgrounds that I'm making, no clue what was going to happen. So the first piece I used a lot of water with this first bit because I was like, let's just see what happens. You know, just seeing how the colors move, doing their thing. I'm using my splat box to contain some of the color with one of my little bamboo paper towels just to absorb the excess because my splat box, there's so much splatter in it now that it kind of resists liquid. So it would the liquid would pool. That's the only reason why I put the bamboo paper towel in it, is just to kind of absorb the excess. And then I did lay out my little flour sack, not little, it's big, flour sack cloth, just so I don't get tons of splatter all over the place. Yeah, this is one of those few times I kind of thought ahead for once. Put in that 30 seconds of effort. So anywho, the first piece, I used a lot of water with the first layer because, you know, the more water you use, the more things are going to move and blend. And then the second layer, I just sprayed. Like, didn't add any more water, just kind of layering colors. I will list with the supplies the colors I used. I can't list them like in the order I used them because I did 3 different backgrounds and I was just like grabbing the colors and like spraying. But I used peeled paint, ripe persimmon, rusty hinge, rustic wilderness, seedless preserves, and fossilized amber. And after I did the second layer, I'd let it dry and then, or like used my Ranger Heat It tool to dry things faster. And then did, you know, the water splatter and picked up with paper towel to get that fun water effect, which is always one of the most fun things about distress inks. And so then with the second piece, same idea. I just grabbed more of the, like I used the seedless preserves this time. And I didn't use as much water. Just, again, seeing what it's going to do. When it comes to, like, backgrounds like this, whether you're using, you could use sprays, you could use distress inks, oxide inks, like, use whatever you got, you know? Figure out what works for you. Figure out what combos you like, whether or not to use water. Like, there's a bajillion options out there, you know? And depending on what you're doing, it can help to keep note of it. In my case, I film it, so I don't keep note. But if I wasn't filming, I'd be kind of taking notes, like, I liked this combo, or this is what I did, yada, yada, yada. So you can, like, have something to reference back, you know? You could also do swatches, that sort of thing. It's on my list. I ordered a ton of the big Dina Wakley tags to do stuff like that, to do, like, swatches and, like, fiddle with backgrounds, but that's for another day. Anyway, I was just playing for the most part, but with the idea in mind that I was going to use these backgrounds. So I just kept fiddling with all of them. I basically just did 2 layers. You know, I did my first layer, spraying, adding a bit of water, whatever. And then I would add like a second layer with more sprays, dry that, and then splatter with the water. Cause that just it just gives it something. And like I said, you could do this with just distress inks. You won't get the same like dotty, speckly texture like you do with the sprays, but you can still get beautiful backgrounds, whatever floats your boat. I've just been really into the sprays the last 6 months, however long it's been. So those panels, I die cut all of them with 3 different leaf wafer die sets from Simon. I used the stitched oak, the etched laurel leaves, and the large stitched maple. And I had enough to do 2 cards. So I die cut all those, set them aside. And then I die cut some dark chocolate cardstock with one of Simon's basic rectangle wafer dies. And I'm putting it in my MISTI. And I have a sentiment from the All About You stamp set. So I lined that up along the bottom use my anti-static powder tool, and I'm going to ink up and stamp this sentiment twice on each panel because it's such a solid, large sentiment. Anytime it's like solid images, solid sentiments, like larger surface areas, I like to stamp them a good couple times just to get as much, ink coverage as possible before adding the embossing powder. And then I use Simon's Gold embossing powder, poured that over, and then I'm going to melt this with my heat tool. And then once I have those sentiments melted, while I still have my Misty out, I grabbed my card bases, which are Nina Desert Storm cardstock, one of my just all-time favorites for craft color, but also anything fall related. I was like, Nina Desert Storm, also for for every occasion. If you don't have Desert Storm cardstock in your life, you should get some. It's fabulous and I love it. So that's my card base, and I stamped another sentiment from that same All About You set, and I used the dark chocolate ink from Simon to stamp that, and again, stamped it a couple times, get that good solid coverage going. And then my panels, I didn't have to do it right this moment. It didn't matter. I was actually going to put the panels on the cards, adhere everything to then do my splatter, but I changed my mind. But to adhere these to the card base, I used Simon's Big Mama foam tape, which I have raved about for years now. It's not as thick as standard foam tape, hence me loving it so much. It adds dimension without adding a ton of bulk. So I coated the back of those panels with that foam tape and then figured out how I wanted to arrange my little cluster of leaves. I had enough for each card front plus an extra one because I made sure to use up all three of those backgrounds in full. And once I had them all kind of figured out, I'll have an extra leaf for the inside of each card to finish it off. But I had a rough idea of how I wanted to arrange them, and then to adhere them to these panels, I'm just going to use a combination of that Big Mama foam tape as well as a little bit of craft tacky glue just to, get them adhered into place. The craft tacky glue was just an extra to adhere some of the edges down that are overlapping each other. Because I thought Big Mama foam tape ain't going anywhere. It's literally not going to go anywhere. You will tear, and trust me, I've tried. Once it's pressed down, it's not going anywhere. So, used all of that to get these adhered into place. So I adhered the leaves first. When I was thinking about this card, I was thinking about attaching all the stems together, but then I was like, I don't have the patience for that. And that's way too finicky of a job. The easiest way to do it is to adhere it like I do. And then I grabbed some hemp cord from my stash. Baker's twine would work, string, anything. Doubled up a length of it, and then basically did bunny ears and tied it in a little bow. And it's not tight yet. I just, loosely made the bow, and then I can fiddle, back and forth till I get it the way I want it. People comment on that. The rare times I do use any sort of twine or things, whatever, about bows. I've been doing this for almost 20 years. You figure it out after a while. And I did do a video 15 years ago, a lifetime ago, tying ribbon bows on my channel. But I remember it took me a while, and now I don't even have to think. So anywho, tied my bow, and then to adhere it, I used Distress Collage Medium. You could also use Ranger's Multi-Medium Matte. Similar products. Similar. Not quite, but very similar. The Collage Medium, the nice thing about that is it shrinks as it dries. So I removed a little bit of the excess on the first piece because I squeezed way too much. But it shrinks as it dries, and it dries matte, so you can't see it. And it adheres really well. This is the stuff, that's why they call it Collage Medium. Tim Holtz ideology things and the 3D elements and all the different things. That's what they use to adhere all those pieces together to make those fabulous things. This stuff's a good adhesive to have in your stash. And yeah, it adhered. I just let that completely dry, and then once it's dry, those bows are not going anywhere. So I've got my card fronts. I put them back in my splat box along with those 2 extra leaves, and then I pulled up my Gonzai Tombi Starry Colors palette and swirled up some of the gold in there because of course you need more splatter. I got the splatter kind of out of my system with this spraying the backgrounds, but that's not the same as shimmer splatter. So I heavily splattered these card fronts and those leaves with this gold paint. Just love. So, and also I went heavier than I planned because I decided not to add any other embellishments. The spotter and the everything, I kind of wanted the leaves to still stand out. So once I got that applied, let those dry, which didn't take very long. And now I can pop these card fronts onto the card bases, and then I'll adhere the leaves to the insides of the cards. And then I'm going to pair these cards with some gold envelopes from Simon as well. And that's going to finish off this little ensemble. So I hope you guys will play with your inks, play with your sprays, whatever you've got. Create some backgrounds, whether you have a plan for them or not, you know? It's nice to have a stack to use. And if the things turn muddy and that sort of thing, this is the type of, die cuts, like leaves, perfect to use with that sort of stuff. So just have fun with it. So showing the detail, because there's all the stitching and the etching and everything of them too, which is just fabulous. So as always, I will link below the video to my blog post. I will have a link to all the supplies I used. You can check that out in the description box below, as well as over on my blog. Stay tuned. I have a whole bunch more videos coming, especially with Stamptember right around the corner. I'm going to be uploading a ton. So thank you guys for watching, subscribing, thumbs upping, commenting. I very much appreciate your support, and I'll see you all very soon in the next video. Bye.